right, we are here. Off-season episodes. The fun stuff.
Been a while.
Fun time of the year. It has been a little bit for sure. Everybody really wanted me to advance the league for a long time so we could trade. So now let's get into the news to talk about all those trades. And by all of those, I mean one that you actually made.
I did make it.
So you could tell us about it. It was your trade.
All right. So, I sent over to Ethan, I sent Chase Brown, a 2025 third, and a 2024 second that I believe was
206.
206. Again, the sleeper website doesn't show. It's just like, oh yeah, it was this, So 206, I received DeAndre Hopkins, 2-9, and a 2025 fourth. For those who are longtime fans of the league would know that my original team had DeAndre Hopkins, and he was like our team mascot. As here comes Rocky to give some expert analysis.
He was the logo.
He was the logo.
If you nuke,
yes.
you book.
Nuke if you book.
Yeah, I know. Nuck.
So I'll let Adam talk about it first, and then I'll kind of explain where I was going with this.
All right, if we break this down, you moved back around next year from the third to the fourth. Again, probably not like a huge difference. And then also moved down this year from 6th pick of the second round to the 9th. I feel like what I've seen from drafts right now, obviously it's really early. We're just before the combine. This might come out probably after the combine because it's literally like the combine is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll kind of like maybe help get a little bit of a better idea, but I don't think there's like a huge tier break there right now. I think there's decent players you could get throughout like all of the second, so it's not like a huge drop off, only 3 picks. And then you do get Hopkins for Chase Brown, so you kind of had to pay to upgrade there. Chase Brown, I feel like in my brain, I thought he was better until I actually looked at his stats. Where then I looked and it was like, okay, he had one game where he had 19 points because he had a big touchdown, and then after that it was like 8, 4, 4, 6, 6. Like, he really didn't do as good as I thought in my head. I feel like he was like a pretty consistent, like, oh, he scored like 10 a lot. Whoa. That scared me. Got my hood a little bit. So he's like, that was cool.
Rocky, what do you think of the trade?
So,
hey, excuse, sir, what do we think of the trade?
He's too busy with the couch.
Okay.
So I thought he was putting up like 10 a game.
Business.
Instead, it was like
Sir, do you
6.
have an answer to the question? What do you think of the trade? You want to tell the folks?
No.
Okay. Hey, he's disgusted with me. He was a big Chase Brown guy.
Yeah, and then Hopkins this year.
Rocky, please
Rocky
no.
on the table. Shake the camera, Rocky. Knock it over.
No, stop. All right, he's chilling for now. Just don't go over the box, please. Don't go over the box.
So Hopkins obviously had a few big weeks. The 34.3 touchdown week. He had another 25. He did have a few like 4-point weeks. I think the big thing here is obviously we're getting a
table.
Obviously we're getting a new coach in Tennessee, and I think they're probably going to pass more. They kind of took like the Bengals offense and are going to bring it here, and obviously like Bengals would pass a lot more than the Titans, who are always like one of the lowest, kind of relied on Henry. Henry also seems like he's out of here, so I think Hopkins could obviously see like if there's just a bit bigger passing offense, he'll probably see a lot of those targets too. Only thing that is scary is he will be 32. How many great 32-year-old receivers do you kind of see? And if Joe Mixon is gone, who knows what they do at running back. If Chase Brown kind of steps into that role, I think this could turn bad for you and good for Ethan. But I totally see the vision of Hopkins could walk in and be like a wide receiver 3, one of those like top flex options, where Chase Brown again could also still be in that handcuff role and it's not like you gave up a ton in picks to really make this move happen.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was going with. To have him retire a War Eagle as it always was meant to be, and also just kind of get my receivers were probably the weaker part of my team this year. There were sometimes they would combine for 10 points.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a guy where I'm not expecting the old DeAndre Hopkins of like if he's not putting up 20, it's a bad week.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more if I can get a solid 10 to 12 week in, week out.
With then some of those 20, 30-point weeks where
Exactly.
he does Hopkins things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just happy to have him back.
Yeah.
And again, didn't give up too much, I don't think, unless my pick next year in the third becomes Football Jesus.
Yeah. What was Ethan's third?
Or
Wait, no.
No, don't look at this. This doesn't.
It was Griff's third.
If Griff's third becomes Football Jesus next year, I might be kicking myself.
Or again, on draft day, you could look and be like, "Man, I really want this guy," and then he goes off at 206, 207, 208, and you're sitting there at 9, and it's like, wish I was up there. But again, that's usually their second round picks. Like, obviously, there's really good players that come from it, but it's not the end of the world. So.
Yeah.
And that's the only trade we have. I assume
in 2 months it's been.
I assume we're gonna get more. I think this is kind of like that lull period. Obviously, it kind of even happened for us with not filming for a while.
Yeah.
And then I think this is the point where everybody's like, I kind of want to see what happens with free agency, with the draft, with the combine, and then you kind of see a few more moves being made. I know a few people have reached out to me, reached out to a few people. I know you've been in talks with people. Obviously, we've seen Steve, Jasmus, Zach putting up players on the trade block. I think other Ethan's put up guys. Obviously, he put up Hopkins. That's how this kind of started. So a lot of people some big names being talked about. CMC, Mike Evans from Zach's side. It'll be kind of interesting when any of these trades happen, if they even do happen, or kind of what goes on there. But I think we'll see a little more of that take shape as we kind of get a clearer picture of oh, this guy signed here, this guy signed here. Okay, now I kind of know what this team's going to look like more.
Yeah, I think part of it too is gauging, you look at the guys that are being trade and you got to think okay, by the time it hits maybe right before the draft or right after the draft, is their value going to go up or down?
Yeah.
In a sense of my thought process, at least with Hopkins, was okay, he could get traded to maybe he does get traded to the Chiefs or something like that. And all of a sudden hey, might be a little more valuable now. Or maybe he stays with the Titans, but the Titans draft a receiver and sign somebody. It's okay, now he's not looking as valuable. Yeah. I kind of gauged that, and I was I'm going to jump on Hopkins now and just hope he does.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing with even Chase Brown, where it was okay, they're talking about how Joe Mixon might be out, so it's Chase Brown's value's gone up because it's he might be the guy, but they could easily draft someone. They've also said Mixon's going to be gone for 4 years now.
Yeah.
So Mixon could easily be back. So I wonder if we do see a few more trades kind of popping off. I kind of hope so.
Knowing this, there's going to be 4 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we're
filming right now.
Yeah.
We'll see some combine talk and kind of get everybody in. But I just think this is kind of that down period. I think a lot of our league really likes baseball, so I think people start spring training starting on all of that. So I think people kind of get that start to shift to baseball. A lot of the people really like basketball with the All-Star break season kind of now getting to the juicy part or interested in that. Obviously then we're going to have March Madness and stuff. So people I think get interested in some other sports. Still obviously think about football, but it's a little bit less. Right after the Super Bowl, you kind of just step away for a month or so, but that's kind of the point we're hitting. So I think we'll see talking pick up and probably a few trades. In my brain, I'm like, I need to just start sending people trades because it's fun to trade. And I think that's kind of what goes through everybody's mind. And then it's like, this might be dumb, but let me send this.
Yeah.
Because I think, like Zach even said, he's like, I just need to feel something. Someone trade with me. Like you get that text like once a week. Nothing really expires from it, but hey, maybe it will soon.
Maybe. All right. So I think that's going to wrap up our news segment. We have a segment after this, I think.
Yes.
We'll see you there.
All right, we're gonna not do like a full power rankings, but I think we're just gonna go through each team and kind of give some points because like it's so early to tell with like we have the whole NFL offseason, soccer league offseason, everything before we even get to kind of like seeing what these teams are gonna look like. So, but we'll just give a kind of like a brief overview, and we'll start with whose division?
Let's start with the Mickey Mouse division first.
All right, so we're starting with your division. All right. We'll start with Matt. So how do well, first we'll kind of look at like his picks and kind of what he could add this year. He has 204, 210, and 402. So he doesn't have a first, but obviously could still get some decent value, especially with like that early second, late second could be another okay player. Like Tank Dell was like what 212 last year. So obviously there's still players you could get around that range, and we've never had a fourth, but I mean I guess Puka would have been a fourth last year. So there was still some hope, but probably not as much. But so he doesn't have a ton coming in, but I think if you look at his team with Gino, James Cook, Brian Robinson, Garrett Wilson, KJ Osborne, Rashi Rice, Laporta, Rashid Shaheed, JSN, Zach Charbonnet, plus some other guys on the bench like Algier, Khalil Herbert, McLaughlin, Mooney, A.T. Perry, Josh Palmer. How do you think his team kind of ends up this year? The upcoming year.
Honestly, I think it depends on obviously how do those draft picks go, what additions do they make. For Matt, I could see him potentially battling for the third playoff spot.
Well, there's not a third playoff spot. There's the two.
I don't think
flex.
I'll say this
spots now.
because this is also new for us, but I guess what I want to say is I think he'll be middle of the pack. I don't think we're going to get the same, oh, I'm playing Matt. I don't even have to look at my lineup this week.
Yeah, last year he did go 2-12, so do you think he is above that, same, or below that?
I could see him kind of being around where you were last year, so maybe 4-9 as like a floor.
5-9.
Or 5-9 as a floor, and I would go with maybe 7-7, 8-6 as a ceiling.
Yeah, the only thing that's sketchy is obviously like if you look at his flexes, Shaheed, Charbonnet, I guess if you pretend JSN is his wide receiver 3 and KJ Osborne would then be his flex. We do have the extra flex, so like depth becomes even more important, and like having like options to then put in for bye weeks when injuries do occur, because they will. Obviously, I think we kind of saw how like some draft picks could like be immediate impact, and like how much draft picks could really like change a team like pretty quick. So I think if he hits on those 2 seconds and they become actual like contributors of like, oh, I could play them in my flex, even if it's like a kind of like what we saw from like Jaden Reed this year. Obviously last year in the second he hit on Laporta. If he gets another player kind of like that, I think this team would have enough like of a starting lineup to kind of finish in that 5-9 to like 7-7-ish range. I think if those kind of whiff, he's really just like an injury away, or like someone regressing away to kind of being back to this 2-12. I think it'll be a little bit better. I don't think he'll get just 2 wins, but I still don't really expect a great season coming here.
No, I think if in the offseason, what you're looking at, you kind of have two options. You can maybe sell.
If you're Matt, what's your plan this offseason?
If I'm Matt, I think right now, sorry, Rocky, I, th- I almost want to say, instead of trying to go after a big name, get some depth. Jaleel McLaughlin, Khalil Herbert, and Tyler Algier are all guys where it's like,
How are you getting depth? I think that's one of the questions.
so again, obviously 2 second-round picks you hope could be at the minimum depth, if not starters, which would bring some other guys down. Maybe shedding off some. Maybe you trade 210 for a guy or two where it's like, hey, that they could be decent.
Yeah, that's maybe proved it a little bit more.
Yeah, and then you could even work with some of the other draft picks you have. Not saying dump your firsts, but maybe you could trade a second and third for a guy or two, similar to like 210, where it's like they've shown stuff. They might not be the most eye-catching players, but
Someone you feel comfortable kind of in the flex.
yeah, because hello.
Yeah.
I got a foot to the ribs. Because again, some of the guys in the starting lineup, I'm like, oof.
Yeah, I could kind of see it, but also like with the flex to super flex, or the switch to super flex coming, might need to look at investing in some QB. You only have Geno Smith and Levis, where again you have Bryce Young. He does have Bryce Young too on the taxi, but none of those guys are really like proven.
You forgot about Zach Wilson.
Yeah, for good reason. And I also forgot about Tyson Bagent. But I don't know. It's going to be so interesting how this rookie draft unfolds. Are all the QBs going to go early? Or are people just going to still act like it's a one QB and let all the QBs kind of fall to the second? Kind of what's that range for where do they go? Because they are going to, maybe not this year, but in a year or two, especially when it's like, oh, we're 1 year away now. Those QB values are going to shoot up. So does he maybe in the second if a JJ McCarthy's there, obviously if one of the top three guys is there, does he a Penix or a Bo Nix? Does he try to just grab them, kind of think about the future more? Because his team is pretty young. Like Laporta, Rashi Rice, JSN, we're all rookies. Garrett Wilson again was in year 2. Like Bryce Young and Levis, like young. It's like a pretty young team. So if like these core pieces are pretty good and you kind of figure out like the QBs for that future, hit on a draft pick like next year when you like have a first again, things could kind of build up compared to like going all in. But I don't know. It is tough because it's like Superflex is far away.
Yeah.
Next we'll go talk about Jasmus last year finished 7-7, got into the playoffs, bouncing round 1. The team of Fields, A-Chain, Najee, Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Clyde, Eckler, and then Pacheco is kind of like what his team would be. And then picks, pretty similar to Matt, 202, 207, 407, 411. So 2 seconds, 1 early, 1 later, and then 2 fourths. How do you think he does compared to last year?
Honestly, I kind of think he stays the same. I could see him maybe going up a win or two, potentially, depending on his schedule and everything, because Fields probably going to be on a new team. If he goes to a place like Atlanta where he has a lot of weapons, he can thrive. A Chan, he could really take another step forward this year. He had shown flashes last year.
Yeah, averaging 17 a game last year.
Yeah. Maybe just staying on the field for a little more.
Yeah, if he stays healthy and if, like, Mostert gives up some of those touchdowns, like, he could be one of the highest scoring players in fantasy.
Arthur Smith's now with the Steelers. You could get some Najee, a little bit more Najee action because he does love those bad running
Running
backs.
backs. Yeah, and I think the like Amari Cooper, Cooper Cup are both still like valuable. They're just obviously getting older now. Eckler's kind of up in the air. I still think Pacheco's going to be good. I think he'll still be an option there, but has I think a better full lineup kind of than what we just saw with Matt. But the same thing, doesn't really have any depth, and I think it'll come down to kind of like those seconds again. If either of them kind of hit with like again a Tank Dell or like a Laporta or a Rashi Rice, someone that comes in is like a top 24 receiver, a top 12 tight end, a top 16 running back, and that is easily that you could plug in and play, and gives Jasmus like some depth here. Oh, like this is an easy starting flex. Like if you put like this year's Rashi Rice on this team, oh, this looks a lot better now. If that second again turns into Roshan Johnson, Tank Bigsby, list goes on and on, Michael Mayer, like some guys that still like even have hope, but it's like, oh yeah, they did nothing really this year, which happens with a lot of seconds. Then you're kind of in that same spot of not a ton of depth. Yeah. How are you attacking this offseason as Jasmus, if it was you?
I'm definitely getting a better wide receiver 3. In my opinion, I don't think Zay Jones is going to cut it. And
do you think he maybe tries to trade like the 2 seconds and then to try to get up to like a late first?
I could see him doing that.
And then trying to grab, like we've heard a lot about how good this receiver class is, and it's like, yeah, you're probably not going to move up to the top like 6 with 2 seconds, but you get a later first and then take kind of whoever's left of like the probably like first, second round guys.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Or is having those 2 swings better than one?
It's definitely tough. I think end of the first round, we've seen guys like Jefferson go there.
Yeah, like pick 8.
But then also you've seen guys 12. Like Terrace Marshall and Rondale Moore.
And Ruggs.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So, if I for the right price, if I can get to like maybe 8 to 10 for those 2 seconds, I would probably take that. But if it's like moving from 202 to 112, I don't know if that's exactly worth the 2 swings there.
Yeah, I don't know. It depends. Again, it's hard to look at like it's pretty easy to kind of like look at tiers, right? Like when you get closer to the draft, where it's like, okay, Malik, Marv, Rome,
Brock.
Well, like I'm thinking receivers,
oh.
And then it's like, okay, like other guys that are getting like first round buzz, Brian Thomas, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier
Coleman.
Worthy, Coleman, Franklin. It's like, if all those guys are gone, plus like you throw in Brock, there's not really a ton of running backs, maybe some QBs we see, and it's like, okay, that gets you to pick 12, pick 11, like 11, 12, 13 of receivers there, and then it's like now you're in that next tier of guys. Again, you could have different tiers. It'll probably change by the time we even get to the draft, but it might be like,
I'm sure we just mentioned a guy that's going to go in the 4th round.
Yeah, and not be anything, and there's probably a guy that like we didn't even talk about or I haven't even thought of yet that'll get drafted in the 2nd round out of nowhere and be like, this guy's really good. But depending on where you kind of see that last tier of like good receiver falling, it could be pick 8, it could be pick the 1 pick ahead of you, and then you're just trying to move up a pick to get that receiver or something, or you just wait and see what falls. But I think, yeah, getting receiver is definitely a needs a better wide receiver 3 for sure if he wants to compete, but I do see him kind of probably around that same range. Now we'll go to James.
Recently rebranded from Connecticut Crusaders to the Cleveland Crusaders.
Yeah, with the move.
With the big move.
How do you see this team?
I'm conflicted. Because I'm not going to lie. This team's not very good. But you do have his first. And usually when you have someone's
They
first,
just randomly
they
go
exceed expectations. That being said, it doesn't look great.
I think, again, he has a few good pieces. Drake London hasn't really shown a ton, but hopefully that offense is better. Jahan Dotson had a decent rookie year where he scored a lot, not as much this year, but if they get a QB, could be better. Pickens, again, now he's with Arthur Smith, but has shown flashes. And then, like, some okay tight ends with Waller, Otten, and Schultz. The bench, there's really not that much there.
No. The biggest issue with this team, you look at the running backs where you have Miles Sanders and Kendry Miller as the starters. And then on the bench, you got Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette, Elijah Mitchell, Damian Pierce.
Zach Evans, is he even real?
I don't think he is.
The good thing, he does have some picks. He's got pick 5, 201, 205, 212, 305, 306, 307, 308, 309. So he's going to have his choice of thirds and 408. You did mention his biggest need is running back, and this running back class
sucks.
Is not the best. So I think maybe if he wants to compete, he's got to trade some of those seconds for running back, but like it's not even like the receivers and other positions are like super deep to like warrant it. What, you trade 205 for James Conner, but James Conner's on your team for a year, and then you're kind of done. Like, what, you go try to get a Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon's also old. Like, I think if I'm in James's mind right now, I'm probably keeping a lot of these picks. Maybe, like, again, trying to move up a little bit just to, like, get something a little bit better. Maybe even, like, moving some of those thirds and, like, a late second just to try to, like, move it up in the second round a little bit. Something like that. Or even just swinging on all the thirds because, again, who knows when you find decent players there. The more swings, kind of the better. But you just try to build your team, get it young. And then if you have like a really good draft, this team could be turned around next year. If you hit on those seconds, if you hit on that first, if you hit on a third or two, it's like, oh, wow, yeah. If this is like Spears, Tank Dell, Sam Laporta.
It's a good thing James is known for his black magic in the third round.
True, and he's got a lot of shots in the third.
Yeah.
But I think most likely this is going to be a longer season. Do you see him outdoing what he did last year at 2-12, or does he do worse or the same?
I will put his ceiling at 4-10. I think the floor 1-13.
Yeah, I'm
my biggest thing with James, again, those RBs are very bad, and the wide receivers are young. They've shown flashes, but they're not exactly convincing as of right now.
Yeah, it's not even like how we talked about with some of these other teams, like Cooper Kupp is a stud. AJ looks like a stud. Maz, Garrett Wilson, and Laporta, who have looked like studs. Nothing's really shown here. So I think, if he kills the draft, maybe he gets to 5 wins. Most likely, probably that 0 to 3 win range. But I think if you're him, your goal is to get a bunch of these young guys. Hopefully they take a step forward throughout the year. By the end of the year, you're like, I guess I have some pieces to kind of work with next year.
Yeah.
Now we'll go to me.
Look at you go.
My turn. I think my team is not good right now. I'd have like Burrow at QB, Warren and Spears at running back, Moore, Addison, Wandale, Pitts, Goddard, Johnston, Mims, and not that much on the bench. Michael Thomas maybe. Tucker Kraft was okay as a tight end to end the year, but it was also without Musgrave. Not much. Where my team gets better, I have pick 4, pick 7, pick 12, 203, 304, 404. So you could go now. What do you think I should do, and how do you think I do compared to last year?
Oh, hello. It's rough, man. This looks a little rough, but like you said, you do have 3 firsts coming in, so you got to think. You got to get a little receiver help. I think your biggest need, similar to James, is running back. Goddard and Pitts are a solid tight end duo. QJ needs to perform better next year for me to be convinced about him. And you do have War Eagles legend Khalif Raymond, so I gotta respect that.
Yeah, I think
Welcome back.
again if I could hit on at least like 2 of these firsts and then one of my like second, third, fourth, and I get 3 players that I could kind of put into the lineup, like another Jordan Addison and so on. I hit like another like Jalen Warren type running back. Then I think I have a chance to like kind of be competitive. I do have also like other picks in future years that some of the other teams we just mentioned don't really have. They maybe have 1. I have like 5 next year and then a couple more the year after. So I think for me at least, if things start to look good, I could package some of those together to try to go get a player on a team that's kind of underperforming. Maybe if whoever's doing bad, I could go get someone on that team and kind of fill it in. If I miss on those picks, then I'm just in the same spot of, oh man, hopefully I don't miss on all my picks next year. That's kind of, I think, where I sit as of right now, but I definitely need help, and I'm more than just 1 piece away. I'm definitely a few pieces away.
Yeah, but at least you have that ring on your hand still.
True. And I think I'll probably kind of be around that same spot of like 5 and 9. I think I'll have enough good weeks to win a few, but I don't think I will be in the playoffs unless I hit and really go for it. Next, we'll talk Steve. Steve, I think he got a pretty solid team. Pick-wise, he's only got 208, but Love, Saquon, Connor, Debo, Terry, Kirk, McBride, Kincaid, Chuba, Jacoby. Even on the bench has some guys, Michael Wilson, Romeo Dobbs, Jerome Ford, Zach Moss. I think he's got a few solid like top end guys with like Saquon, could be on a new team, could be very good. Debo's been solid. McBride looked really good at tight end. Obviously, everything points to them adding like Marvin, but and then I think he has like decent depth. Like if you look at the whole starting lineup, I'm pretty like decent with it. And
Leaps
some
and
bench guys
bounds
too.
above where he was to begin last year, I think.
Yeah.
The depth is very nice. I think we could see a jump from Steve here. Maybe he is the one that takes that second seed. So far, the first 4 we talked about kind of seemed, I don't want to say weak, but
They need a lot of like draft picks to go right to kind of be
where I
in
think
a good spot.
I think Steve has a chance to, go back to back in the playoffs, and
You see over under the same as that 8 and 6 we saw last year.
I think it's going to be over. I think the ceiling is 11-3. That's everything goes right. 2-8 is a guy that's like serviceable, stuff like that. I would say his floor probably 7-7. I think this lineup has a chance to be volatile. James Conner,
Yeah.
a little injury prone. Debo Samuel, regular season, especially in like those middle weeks. Kind of seems to be either he's doing everything or he's doing nothing.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of just have to see. You know, Trey McBride, like you said, was a stud towards the end of last year. We'll see if he keeps that up.
And if like Kincaid too takes a step up, could have a really good young tight end duo.
Yeah.
I do think he'll probably kind of be around that same 8-6, 9-5 ish if things go right. Also, he has 208, but then next year he has a second, and then he has 3 seconds the year after. Those, I think, as a team that's like not super old, and also like pretty deep wise, I think he could maybe use some of those seconds where like if he sees an injury, he could go out, get a player to fill in, and kind of like keep the machine like turning compared to some other teams where it's like if they have no assets, then it gets a little bit tougher. And obviously we're not seeing them now, but everybody will get a 2027 first, second, third, fourth. So everybody will have another first, second, third, and fourth to be able to trade as it moves on. And then we'll talk Ethan, finishing up my division. Ethan's pretty good.
Pretty good.
He still has a first, 109, 206, and then also 409. The starting lineup, I think it's kind of, he's got some pieces that are kind of getting up there now.
Yeah, you look at
Travis Kelce.
You look at Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen.
Derrick Henry.
Are these kind of like the last rides for these guys?
Yeah, he still has the young, like really core pieces. ETN, Jamar Chase, Chris Olave that you could build around for the future. But I think he then does have some of those older guys where it's like we did see Diggs kind of cool off a lot by the end of the year. Travis Kelce wasn't the same Travis Kelce. He really turned it up in the playoffs, but like to end the year, those guys were part of the reason Ethan did not have playoff success last year. He does have 109. I will be interested kind of where he goes with that. This is where I think the everything changing kind of gets me confused because right now if you look at his QBs, Russ is old and wants to like get released. Pickett sucks. Rodgers is like 40 off a injury, and Trevor Lawrence is good but not as great as we all thought. So when you're picking at 9, if one of those top 3 QBs is there, if all of them are there, if whoever's there, do you go for that, or does he look at his team and go, I'm competitive, I should get a receiver to try to like keep this train moving and win now? Or do you think about the future and getting that like QB2 for if we do switch to super flex? Like obviously if you look at a super flex rookie draft now, it's like Caleb's 1, Jaden Daniels is like 2 or 3 depending on Marv, Drake May is like 2 or 3 depending on Marv, or the other guys, like they're all like top 5 picks, where if you could grab one of those right now at pick 9, obviously it's like a steal. But
yeah,
you also have a really good team. Do you take maybe the first running back drafted? Do you take one of those first round receivers, or like an early second round receivers if all the first round receivers are gone, and be like, oh, that'll give me another good flex option? Where do you think, would you kind of think in that situation?
What I would say is I would go for another championship with this core here. So maybe draft, like you were saying, a wide receiver, maybe the first running back off the board at that time. Go for a championship, but if things go awry during the season, probably get ready to say goodbye to some guys, get their value while you still can.
I think it is tough too, obviously, for things to go awry. Is his team still better than like a lot of my division?
If he doesn't win the division, it would be an issue. I think
like if he has a really unlucky year, like Steve could possibly pass him and win, but I still think Ethan finds his way into the playoffs as that 2 seed. I don't see him falling lower than that.
I think so too. Excuse me. Yeah. No, I'm going. So he definitely could have an unlucky season, like not out of the question. We've seen it in the past. His lineup is really good. I just think at that point, you kind of have to say, hey, even if we make the playoffs, realistically, how far am I going?
Yeah.
As you will soon see, there are some divisions. There are some teams in the other divisions that are tough to crack.
Yeah. And I also wonder if he looks at this lineup and goes, it's good enough. So maybe that's why he can draft the QB. Or again, I think that's his big decision. Also, will a QB even be there? I have no idea how this draft will go.
Exactly.
It could just be a super flex draft and QBs could go 4, 5, 6. And one could not even get to him.
Very well could. I think we're going to take a quick break before we do the spit division. But we'll be right back. All right, we are back with the spit division. So, Adam, where are we going first?
We're going to Cherry.
Another rebranded team. Now the Killer Whales used to be the Providence Steamrollers.
Yes.
Or the team formerly known as the Whale Cocoons.
True. I'll get this one started. Cherry last year got into the playoff or did not get into the playoffs. Would have gotten into the playoffs under the new rules. Finished 8-6. I think Cherry has a good shot to get into the playoffs again. He is adding Marv. I think we could all say it. That's who it's going to be, barring something shocking happening. Still has pick 6, also in the first round, plus a late third and a fourth. Could maybe get another receiver there if he wants. Could get maybe we see a QB go there. I don't know. The draft is confusing. Probably too early for an RB, but could get another player that could easily fit into the starting lineup. I think you look at his team, you see Bijan escaping Arthur Smith, could be in for a huge year. Nico Collins really emerged last year, and I think with Stroud will probably still continue to keep that up, and then has a lot of other good but maybe not great players, I think, or not like that next level of elite. Like a Kenneth Walker, obviously a really good RB, finished as RB 19 last year, and will be a really good starter, but isn't in that like CMC tier or anything. I think we saw Rachaad White. He was RB4 last year, had a great year. I think that might be a little bit over kind of what was expected. I think he was kind of the only RB on that team. So I wonder if it comes down this year, if they bring in any competition. If not, I guess he still could put up the same year. But I think I heard the coach say at the Combine interview, like, yeah, he had a great year, but we're definitely looking to bring in another running back. Like, we don't want just like one lead guy. They kind of want a second guy to bring in. So we'll see what they kind of do with that situation and how it works out. Sutton, Calvin Ridley are both okay. Calvin averaged 13. What are you doing, dude?
Good, dude.
Time for a bath. Ooh, you kind of got my stomach there. All right.
Going back to lay down, brother.
And Courtland
Shadow,
Sutton.
what do you think of the Killer Whales?
This isn't Shadow.
Rocky, what do you think of the Killer Whales?
Courtland Sutton put up like 12. Both pretty good players. Both kind of getting older. Calvin Ridley 30. Courtland Sutton 29 will be. And Marquise Brown, another player that put up a fine year, might be on a new team. Same thing with all of those 3 receivers. So it's like, what team do they end up on? What's their role? Kind of where do they fit in from there? So what do you think this team's kind of like outlook is looking on? What do you think their ceiling is, better or worse than last year?
I think their ceiling is 9 wins. I think Marv coming in could add some reliability to a receiver core where you look at Cortland Sutton, does he get 11 touchdowns next year, 10 touchdowns, an average 11 points a game? Calvin Ridley, does he find that consistency, whether it's in Jacksonville or somewhere else? Floor, I don't think is that much lower. I would probably put the floor at about 6 wins.
Yeah. I think this could definitely be a playoff team. I think the big thing here, too, is you look, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2025 firsts. So I think if Bijan's cooking, Rashad White still has that lead role, Marv comes in and is looking really good, and he's sitting there like, oh yeah, I started the year 3-1. Maybe he sends 2 of those first to go add a really good running back, and then sends another first to go add another like good receiver, because I think he kind of lacks some of that depth right now. The depth is like Ty Chandler and Jameson Williams, who are both boomer busty, like kind of what even is their role gonna be. Same thing with like a Rashad Bateman. So he doesn't have a ton of depth unless those guys really like expand their roles. Where maybe he goes and gets another like stud receiver that now pushes Cortland Sutton to your bench, and then now you feel a lot more confident about your team, where it's like, oh, if an injury does happen, if a bye week's there, I could plug him in, and you have another better point scorer than like a Sutton or a Calvin Ridley or whoever. So I think that's like an option where we could see him kind of go all in, per se, if the season starts well. So I think he could get to maybe like 10, 11 wins if he starts hot and then goes for it. But I do think the floor, if he's like, I'm going to just take these picks and try to build like a juggernaut next year, then maybe even like trades away Marquise Brown or tries to like sell high on a Rashad White or something, could get down to maybe like 6-ish wins and then add a bunch of picks next year and then have a great like young, really deep team for the future. We'll go to Trevor.
All right. Wide receiver U with a fresh new logo.
Came off another championship loss. But man, the team is good.
The team is good.
Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, Lamar Jackson, Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Puka Nacua, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, T. Higgins, T.J. Hawkinson, even on the bench, Deontay Johnson, Josh Jacobs, C.J. Stroud. Doesn't have a ton of picks, only the 211 and some thirds, so probably not going to add the most to this team, but he always manages to like kind of make some trades in here and get a new look and a really solid team. We did add a flex, so depth becomes more important, and he still has Josh Jacobs on his bench. I think every other team would gladly take him as a starter.
Yeah.
Some teams he'd walk on and be the best player or one of the highest scorers in like maybe the team or at least the RB room. I think he would easily walk on and be my best RB right now. So having that is like a depth piece for when someone gets injured. Same thing with like a Deontay Johnson, who is a solid flex option wide receiver. Just kind of shows how strong this team is. He did finish 11-3. What do you kind of expect? Do you think he makes any moves or kind of what? I think he's been known for the second he kind of gets, him and Griff both, the second they get that 2027 first, they send it out for somebody. So I wonder if he will kind of continue that mindset of maybe trading that 2027 first for another option to be like a starter or rotational piece.
If I'm in his shoes, I may be looking at getting another running back, whether it be with the late draft pick or, like you said, trading that 2027 first. No disrespect to Jonathan Taylor, Kyron Williams, or Josh Jacobs. It's just, they're gonna have buys. They might get hurt, stuff like that. Maybe just a little insurance. Don't go crazy and get another guy who's like, oh, he's a starter, but I'm gonna have him on the bench. But just like a solid guy where it's like, like Jonathan Taylor broke his thumb again. gonna miss some time, and in that time, Kyron has a bye. Got to get two guys out there.
Yeah, it is hard to nitpick the team.
It's very hard.
That's
Honestly,
good.
if realistically I'm in Trevor's shoes, I'm sitting there like, I'm in.
Yeah, just going all in. I wonder if he maybe keeps the first for a little to like make a mid-year trade to like if there is a need, he could kind of fill it then. And
So
also like
gotta
last
remember,
year,
2027. That's the super flex year.
true. I think
Big
he will be
stretch.
fine with Lamar and CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
But he also picked up like Puka out of nothing. So we're talking like, these thirds are probably nothing. What if he hits on another Puka? Obviously, there's probably won't be another Puka of someone walking on finishing as wide receiver, whatever it was, like 6'4". But you could still get like a player with a late round pick.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go to Zach, the man who won the championship.
The man who won everything.
Obviously, looking at this team, only has 303, 412, so not a ton to really add. Does have a very solid team. Christian McCaffrey, maybe the fantasy GOAT, at least of like our lifetimes. Obviously, I think like LT was nasty too back in the day, but McCaffrey is
You're
ridiculously
forgetting
good.
about Clinton Portis.
Portis was good. Obviously, like AB, there was a lot of good players, but he's very much up there. Joe Mixon, another good player. Again, we talked about earlier, kind of those rumors of him getting cut. CeeDee Lamb was an absolute stud last year, wide receiver 1. Devontae Adams, very, very good player too. But again, hitting that 31, 32-year-old kind of threshold of, father time is eventually going to kind of knock him down a peg.
Yeah.
Will it be this year? Last year still finishes wide receiver 10, but could be happening. Same thing, Mike Evans, on the over 30 years old now, finishes wide receiver 7. Also, what team will he end up on? Mike Evans ends up on the Chiefs. Ring chasing might be pretty good.
Yeah.
But then what if he's follows in Hopkins' footsteps of ring chasing to like Tennessee?
Carolina.
Yeah, the Julio ring chasing of why did you go to Tennessee? Why does every receiver ring chase to Tennessee? But who knows where he'll end up? George Kittle, another guy, over 30 now. Obviously, very good tight end, but he's always kind of been that inconsistent. Oh, he dropped 20. Oh, he dropped 2. Oh, he dropped 20. Oh, he dropped 4. Oh, he dropped 20. Oh, he dropped 10. Oh, he dropped 20. Oh, he dropped 3. Oh, he dropped 3 again. Oh, he dropped 7 again. Not super consistent. So many options there still. Getting older. Kind of what's the situation there? And is David Montgomery back in Detroit?
Yes, I believe he signed a 2-year contract.
Well, him being back there, probably going to be in that same role of scoring touchdowns. I think Gibbs kind of ate into it a little bit as the year went on. Wasn't putting up as like many boom games that he did earlier. But still very good. Lockett, I wonder if he will get released. Another 31, 32-year-old receiver, but another team that still has depth. Aaron Jones, Ramondre, Jaden Reed, still very, very good options. But like a lot of this team, it's getting up there in age, and he doesn't have the picks to really refill the youth. And with him, we've heard a lot of blowing it up, trading CMC, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, George Kittle, like kind of thinking, I'll keep like CD and Jaden Reed, like the young guys, even like a Ramondre maybe, and then trying to kind of like retool, rebuild in like a year and still be competitive, just get a little bit younger right now after winning 2 straight, which, I mean, it's warranted. You just went back-to-back. You could go for the 3-peat.
You could.
Could also be like, I'm pretty set. Let's get young, and then let's get back to this dynasty. What do you think of Zach's team? Do you think he blows it up? Where do you think he kind of goes from here?
I think he trades Christian McCaffrey to the War Eagles. At least that's what I would do if I was in his shoes. I don't know, though. Like, at least in my eyes, I'm like, do I go for the three-peat? Do you sacrifice?
The thing is, if you go for the three-peat and it doesn't work, and he only has one first over the next this year and then 2 years, it could then turn into that like long rebuild process of, oh, now that if McCaffrey gets hurt, tears an ACL, is his value nothing?
No.
I would say yes. If right now you told me Christian McCaffrey was out this entire year, gonna be 28, so now you're getting back 29 off an ACL, it would be the same as like Nick Chubb, where it's like, oh yeah, I guess here's a second. Hope he comes back good. That's just what happens when RBs that are this old. Same thing with like a lot of these guys. If like Evans Adams gets hurt, and it's like, yeah, what I really want to do is give a first for a 33-year-old receiver off of a torn ACL, and nobody wants to do that. So like one injury could kill these guys. Not like a CD who could obviously really bounce back, but like one bad injury really hurts a lot of these guys. And if they stay healthy and you're able to ride it out perfect, you could probably still sell them again for similar prices next year, because I don't think the difference between 28 and 29 for McCaffrey is like a huge value switch, but like an injury again I think could like kill a lot of these players' values. So I think that's the fear with going for it. But the pro of going for it is you just won twice. The team, if healthy, is still nasty. Could make it 3 in a row.
Very well could.
So I think that's the thought process there with Zach's. So you think rebuild or no? Or not rebuild, but trading away some pieces or no?
I think if you can kind of keep the younger core, the young guys you have, and kind of retool, maybe punt this year, you just won 2 in a row. You're not gonna. It's not like you're struggling for the league buy-in. Although Zach probably did buy his house back since he had to spend a lot of it last season outside.
True. Well, he was outside after he won the championship, so maybe he stays outside.
Yeah.
Maybe it's his good luck charm.
Maybe
He needs that chip on his shoulder.
Maybe. Just maybe he needs that homelessness chip. I think it would be beneficial to. I see both sides. I wouldn't blame him for saying, "Hey,
let's go for 3."
Let's go for 3." And I wouldn't blame him for saying, "Hey, Father Time is undefeated."
Yeah, let's retool and not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that's one of the big storylines that's already been taking place through the offseason and will continue to. Next, we'll go to Griff. And obviously, we didn't say it there, but I think his range of outcomes is like, yeah, he could be the 1 seed. He could also, if he does blow it up, win 4 games. Like, there's such a wide range of what could happen. Griff still has the stud receivers, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Ayuk, Josh Allen, a stud. Tank Dell looked really good. Does have pick 110 and also a 3rd and 4th. And then he has a lot of RBs in interesting situations. DeAndre Swift, going to be a free agent. Where will he end up? I think Kamara's a free agent, but I'm not maybe 100% sure. Maybe he has 1 more year. But again, kind of getting older. Singletary, kind of what's his role going to be, if anything? Pollard, will he be on Dallas? Will he be the starter? They're not going to franchise tag him, I think they said. So where does he end up? What's his role? Same thing with Mostert. He's going to be 31, 32. Hasn't had the best health track record. Can he stay healthy and score 21 touchdowns again? I don't know. And then has a few young guys like Josh Downs, Demario Douglas, and then and Trey Palmer as kind of like bench depth options where it's like if they step up, could be very good. Plus that 110 where he's had great track record of hitting on receivers. So could definitely add the next stud receiver at that pick.
Yeah.
And then kind of like what we said with Trevor too, that 2027 first will probably be off his team at some point, especially if he's still trying to win and compete with this roster, I think there's a good chance to. My concern would kind of be those running backs. Obviously, there's like 6 I listed. I'm sure at least half will kind of end up in good situations and spots, but if some of them kind of end up in timeshares or go to a team where it's not very run heavy or just they're not in a good role there, I think it could kind of hurt this team. But obviously, the trio of receivers is easy enough to carry. What do you think his offseason plan is, and what do you think his outlook is?
One of the offseason plans, I'd say, similar to Trevor, is try to get a running back. Although, unlike Trevor in this one, I don't think Devin Singletary is a starter.
Yeah.
Maybe throw Swift in there, and then you can use one of the guys off your bench. But another team where it can be hard to nitpick. Yeah, I would just say try to upgrade or get small upgrades where you can. I'm not saying you have to go through the kitchen sink for people,
Yeah.
but, you have a great core with your receivers and Josh Allen. Kamara is still a very good player. Maybe just build up those other spots to make your team unbeatable.
Yeah. I do think he will kind of take a step down from that 12-2 we saw last year. I think last year he had a lot kind of going right. I think this year might have a few kind of steps back, kind of in that running back room. That's kind of where I could see issues arising. That pick at 110 could be, again, maybe the first running back off the board, and then you get a little bit younger there, or, again, any position to kind of help. But I think maybe he falls back to a kind of like a 9-5, but that's still probably going to be good enough to get into the playoffs. I just think might step back a little bit from that 12-2 1 seed that he had last year. Now we'll talk about you.
Last but not least.
We didn't talk about Evan either. Wow.
Last and certainly least.
Wow, the War Eagles forgot about the Anteaters. After a year of friendship, is this a new rival? Is there some beef brewing?
I'm tired, man. All right.
You heard it here first. Anteaters are the least from Ryan.
I want to apologize. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. I thought I was last. That's why I said last and certainly least. And yeah, I want to apologize to all those that have been affected by my actions, and I will strive to be better in the future.
But we'll talk about your team still.
Okay.
Hurts, very good QB. Brees, stud running back. Zay Flowers, showed a lot last year. And then you have some of those kind of boomer busts, the Christian Watsons, the Gabe Davis, the Jonathan Mingo. Do have Hopkins, who you added.
It wouldn't let me change my lineup because I have too many players. That's why they're not exactly in right now.
You should get on top of that.
You know what? I'll do it right now.
No, don't do it. Oh no.
Goodbye, James Garoppolo.
He's done it.
All right, now I can move people around. I think.
I don't think so, because I think you have IR people on.
Damn it!
You need to cut 3 more.
I can't decide.
Jamison Crowder.
You're right. I can't decide. Goodbye, buddy.
I know you hate to do it, but
no, no, I can't. I can't. He will die on this team.
I think you already did.
I can't. I can't, and I won't.
All right, well, we're not going to see him in the lineup today. But you do also have 3 firsts and a second and a third and a fourth. So, I think when you look at your team...
Damn it. I'm trying, man. Who do I cut? Why does it say empty?
I don't know. Can't decide. Who does he not cut? Irv Smith, Tanner Hudson. the hardest decisions. This is like Trevor saying, Marquise Goodwin has survived the cuts for Zach. That I got a good laugh out of. Because Marquise Goodwin has done a lot. He's 0% rostered, 0% owned. Had 14 fantasy points last year. That mostly came rushing? What? But yeah, he lived. Still lived to fight another day on the championship team.
Got a ring. Got 2 rings.
Maybe. I don't know. Okay, back to your team.
All right.
So with the 3 firsts, I think, obviously, there's been talks of how much you love Brock Bowers. I mean, generational tight end prospect. Would probably walk on as tight end 2, which is ridiculous behind like Laporta, and that's probably it. Then you also have pick 8, pick 11, could get some maybe receivers there, maybe a running back there, first running back off the board, plus that second to maybe draft another RB dart throw. I think your season kind of goes with how well you hit on those picks. If Bowers is good, if you draft him, or if whatever receiver you draft is good, and you're easily able to kind of fit them in the lineup with this team, depending on like maybe where like Gabe Davis goes, plus if you get another RB in the draft, could fill out this roster and look pretty solid. Then you just need some like these fringe guys to kind of step up. The Jonathan Mingos, where will the DJ Chark go? Will Rondell Moore have a more consistent role and be able to do anything? What will Nick Chubb... I keep forgetting Nick Chubb on your team. What will he look like coming back from the injury? When will he come back? If he steps into a decent workload, at least getting some touchdowns, a nice flex play, that just gives your team that little bit more depth. If you miss on some of these picks, probably going to finish with more of the same as this last season was. But I think you have the stud in like Brees, and then you have some okay depth. You just need someone to, seems like, take that next step up. If Zay Flowers could step up from wide receiver 31 to 15, if whoever can just take that next step, I think you have a shot. So my thinking is last year you had 3 wins. I think you do better than that. I'd say you're probably going to be around that 5 to 7-ish range. And I think if things go right, beat some of the right teams, I think you could be fighting for one of those 2 kind of like flex playoff spots come the end of the year. If things go wrong, yeah, you're probably still around 3 wins.
It's been a long time coming since I've heard War Eagle and potential playoff in the same sentence.
True. This is first time in a while. I don't think it's
not in it's
not
first time in show history.
That is true. Yeah, you're not at like 11 to start the year.
Yeah, I'm at like 9.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
So I think there's a chance. I think, again, needs some things to go right. What are your thoughts for your team? You think you smell the playoffs? You think you get in? You think you make a run? Or you think... What is your... What's the game plan without giving away the entire game plan?
I'll say this. I'll be a little cryptic about it. This team that I see in front of me here, probably not a playoff team.
I agree.
I will be doing aggressive moves to change that.
All right, and depending on what those moves are, maybe we do see you in the playoffs. And then, according to Ryan, last and certainly least...
No. I've had enough of the corrupt media here taking the words that I say and repeating them. No, this Evan's a great guy, and
Let's talk about his
let's
team.
talk about his team.
Herbert, solid QB. Gibbs looked very good. Waddle, solid running, right wide receiver. Smith, same thing. Godwin,
Here
same
first,
thing.
folks. Jalen Waddle now a running back.
Jalen Waddle had 12 rushing yards, so yeah, he ran the ball. Mark Andrews, a very good tight end. Just dealt with some injuries towards the end of last year. And then he does have pick 2, which, from what he has said, is going to be Malik Neighbors. So I think you add that. If he goes to a good spot, easily fits into the starting lineup year 1, kind of like what we've talked about with Marv and Brock. Some of those top guys could fit in right away. I think a lot of the questions here are the same questions that we've had everywhere or every year with this team. J.K. Dobbins is off another injury. But at least Mike Williams made it. No, he's also coming off was his an ACL?
I think so.
Yeah. So about that. Also, what team will Mike Williams be on? Will J.K. Dobbins still be on Baltimore?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think if I was in Evan's shoes, I know it's been a
Where will Jerry Jeudy be?
he's going to be in Carolina, along with Gabe Davis and T. Higgins and Mike Evans.
I do think Zamir White has a good shot. This we'll probably find out within the next few weeks. Does Josh Jacobs go anywhere? If Josh Jacobs leaves, I think they could possibly just roll with Zamir White for a year or two. Maybe they add another pass catching running back to kind of complement him. Maybe later or in free Devin Singletary or something. But I think he showed enough last year, especially towards the end of the year. He had that 3 straight games with above 13 points. Or 4 straight games above 13 points. Looked good. Could be a decent option. I think here, though, it's again just kind of worrying about that depth. I think you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-ish solid starters, and then those last 2 bench spots, or the last 2 flex spots, and some of those bench spots are kind of where that iffiness comes in. Does have some random picks over the next few years where maybe you could go get a vet to kind of just fill in there. But if Mike Williams and Dobbins return to form post these injuries, they've had so many and are now getting older and stuff, and if Jerry Jeudy can finally turn it around, I think this team could be good, fighting for the playoffs. I think if not, I think just those last few flex spots might cause him some issues. Kind of what do you think his game plan is, and what do you think expectation-wise?
So, again, I think I briefly mentioned, trying to get an RB2. Trying to... Pardon me.
No.
Get a little depth. You have neighbors coming in, so bumping a receiver down and out of that flex spot will help out with depth a little bit. Maybe go after a few unsung guys. Besides that, we could potentially have the Anteaters in the playoffs for the first time.
Yeah, I think with the new changes, I think he has a spot. Better, worse, same as 6 and 8.
I will say, I've been saying this a lot for teams, and I realize this now as we're on the last one, but...
Every team is good. I think they could do a little better. Someone's got to lose them.
Yeah, somebody's got to lose these games. That's the problem. I will put him...
I think I've done a good job of splitting it up a little.
Yeah, I will put him at 7 and 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably around the same as this, 6 and 8. I think it's again right on that fringe of the playoffs, especially with the new way that the format's going to go, where there's the two random flexes from either division that could get in. I think if a few things go right, could maybe get to like 8 wins and kind of get in that playoff spot. I think if a few things go wrong or he doesn't get the depth he needs, and the same things that we've kind of seen every year with Evan and the Anteaters, some injuries, some just a little bit of unluckiness, and obviously me, the commission these divisions out to get him.
Yeah. If anyone
We might just fall just
Evan,
short.
it's this guy.
Yeah, I think Evan called me his new rival, and that I do everything I can against him, and
It's because you do. You're just mad he's catching on now.
dang it. But that is the end of this. This was kind of long, probably. I think each one was probably about like 30-something minutes.
30-something minutes, yeah.
But I kind of wanted to do this overview. Probably not going to touch on teams much more over like these next few months until we kind of see what free agency, what the draft looks like, and then we'll probably talk again after the draft, which is again in, what is it, like 65 days now?
Yep, 65 days, 10 hours, 10 minutes, and 11 seconds.
Can't wait. That's probably the next time we'll touch on some of these teams. Again, going to try to get people on for some of these. We almost had Zach on. Then I had COVID and strep, so we couldn't, and then he couldn't today, but hopefully before I go on vacation we get him on, and then anybody else wants to, like, especially some of these people we haven't, Cherry, Trevor, Evan, Griff we haven't yet, Ethan, Evan, Matt we haven't.
We want to get everyone. I think if we can get, like, even if the episode is just like an interview.
Yeah, just like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, just
chat
get
some
everyone in
Dynasty,
there.
chat about your team a little, chat
Talk
about
ball.
the league.
Always love
I
talking ball.
think it would be fun. And then we'll be back, hopefully, pretty soon with another episode. Thanks.
See you soon.